I have 3 questions I have for you today.
Great. What's your first question?
Can war be justified?
That's a complex and deeply philosophical question. Justification for war often depends on various factors, including the perspectives of those involved, ethical considerations, and the context in which the conflict arises. Some argue that war can be justified for defense or humanitarian reasons, while others believe that peaceful solutions should always be sought. What's your perspective on this, or is there a specific context you're thinking about?
I'm trying to explore the moral and ethical grounds for war. There are a few wars happening right now, and I want to understand if war should happen or if war is justifiable in the context of what is happening now.
Exploring the moral and ethical grounds for war involves looking at several theories and perspectives. Ethical frameworks like just war theory provide criteria to consider, such as just cause, right intention, and last resort, suggesting that war might be justifiable under specific conditions. However, pacifist views argue that war is inherently immoral and that non-violent approaches should be prioritized. The context of current wars can bring additional complexity as the reasons and consequences vary significantly. Each situation might be analyzed individually to understand if the actions align with ethical principles. Are you looking at any particular war or conflict to analyze its justification?
Let's start with the war in Ukraine.
The war in Ukraine is a significant and complex conflict that began in 2014, escalating dramatically in February 2022. Many international bodies and nations have discussed its justification on various grounds. 1. Sovereignty and territorial integrity. Ukraine's right to sovereignty is a critical aspect. Most of the international community supports Ukraine's defense based on the principle of territorial integrity and sovereignty under international law. 2. Self-defense. Under international law, particularly the United Nations Charter, a country has the right to defend itself if it is under attack. Many argue that Ukraine's military response falls under this category. 3. Humanitarian concerns. There are also debates about humanitarian interventions by other countries. The immense humanitarian impact on civilians has led to significant international support for Ukraine, including economic sanctions against Russia and direct support to Ukraine. 4. Aggression and prevention. From the perspective of Russia, its government has presented various reasons for its actions, including security concerns about NATO expansion and protecting ethnic Russians and Russian speakers in Ukraine. However, these reasons are widely disputed internationally and seen by many as pretexts for unprovoked aggression. These points outline the primary ethical and moral discussions around the war in Ukraine. Each perspective is supported by different international laws, ethical theories, and political considerations. What are your thoughts on these points, or is there a specific aspect of the conflict you're focused on?
I'd like to hear your thoughts on the war on Israel versus Palestine. Is that quite similar to what has happened in Ukraine, or can you outline what's happened and help me with my understanding?
The Israel-Palestine conflict is quite different from the war in Ukraine, with its own unique historical and geopolitical complexities. Here's a basic outline. 1. Historical context. The conflict has deep historical roots, dating back over a century, involving issues of national identity, territory, and the displacement of people. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 and the subsequent wars, particularly the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, and the Six-Day War of 1967, led to major territorial changes and the displacement of numerous Palestinians, which are central to the ongoing conflict. 2. Territorial disputes. The key issues include the borders of Israel and Palestine, the status of Jerusalem, claimed as a capital by both, and the Israeli settlements in the West Bank, among others. Gaza Strip and West Bank are seen internationally as occupied territories by Israel, which Israel contends are disputed territories. 3. Security and self-defense. Israel cites security concerns as a primary justification for its military actions, especially in response to rocket attacks from Gaza and other forms of terrorism. The Israeli government argues that these actions are necessary to protect its citizens. 4. Nationalism and self-determination. Palestinians seek recognition of their right to self-determination and the establishment of an independent state. The use of force by Palestinian groups is often framed as resistance against occupation. 5. International law and human rights. There are significant concerns about violations of international law and human rights. Accusations of war crimes and breaches of international humanitarian law have been directed at both sides. The international community remains divided, with various countries supporting different sides. Unlike the clear international consensus generally supporting Ukraine's sovereignty in its conflict, the global community is more divided about Israel and Palestine, with differing views on the legitimacy and justifications for each side's actions. The conflict is deeply entrenched, with both historical grievances and existential fears driving continuous cycles of violence. What particular aspects of this conflict are you most interested in, or how does this fit into your broader exploration of the justifiability of war?
I'd like to explore what the most effective nonviolent alternatives to war is in relation to the context that I've given you.
Exploring nonviolent alternatives to war is essential in conflicts like those in Ukraine and between Israel and Palestine. Here are some effective nonviolent strategies that could be considered. 1. Diplomacy and negotiations. Engaging in continuous, high-level diplomatic talks with the involvement of all parties is crucial. This can include peace talks mediated by international bodies, like the United Nations or other neutral parties, aiming to address the core issues and grievances of each side. 2. Economic sanctions and incentives. International sanctions or incentives can be used to pressure or encourage parties to negotiate and abide by international laws. While sanctions can deter aggressive actions, incentives for peaceful behavior can promote positive engagement. 3. International law and courts. Utilizing international legal institutions such as the International Court of Justice or the International Criminal Court can help address and mediate disputes legally. This approach upholds international law and holds parties accountable for violations. 4. Peacekeeping missions. Deploying international peacekeeping forces in hotspots can help reduce violence and protect civilians. These forces, sanctioned by international bodies, can monitor ceasefires and provide a buffer between conflicting sides. 5. Civic engagement and peace-building initiatives. Grassroots peace-building efforts and civic engagement can promote reconciliation and understanding. Initiatives might include community dialogues, joint economic projects, and educational programs to build bridges between communities. 6. Public and international advocacy. Leveraging global public opinion and international advocacy can put pressure on conflicting parties to pursue peace. International campaigns and lobbying by global NGOs can raise awareness and push for peaceful resolutions. Each of these strategies requires sustained commitment and the collaboration of multiple stakeholders, including governments, international organizations, and civil society. They also need to be tailored to the specific context of each conflict, considering the unique political, historical, and cultural factors involved. Which of these strategies interests you the most, or do you think there might be another approach that could work better in these conflicts?
I wonder how emerging technology can influence the future of warfare and peacekeeping. What are your thoughts?
Emerging technologies are profoundly influencing both warfare and peacekeeping, with significant implications for the future. Here are a few key areas where technology is making an impact. 1. Cyber warfare. The rise of cyber capabilities means that states and non-state actors can engage in espionage, sabotage, and widespread disruption without traditional military confrontation. This includes targeting critical infrastructure, propaganda campaigns, and disrupting communication systems. 2. Drones and autonomous weapons. Drones provide significant surveillance capabilities and can be used for targeted strikes with less risk to military personnel. The development of autonomous weapons, which can make decisions without human intervention, raises ethical and strategic questions about the future of combat. 3. Artificial intelligence, AI. AI can enhance decision-making in military contexts improve logistics, and predict enemy movements by analyzing vast amounts of data. However, it also poses risks and challenges, particularly regarding decision-making in conflict scenarios and the potential for AI-driven arms races. 4. Satellite and space technology. Satellite technology enhances communication, reconnaissance, and navigation. The militarization of space, including anti-satellite weapons, is becoming a new frontier in defense strategies. 5. Information and social media. Technology has transformed the spread of information, enabling both state and non-state actors to influence public opinion, mobilize support, and conduct psychological warfare. Social media platforms can be used to spread propaganda, but also to expose human rights abuses and mobilize international support for peace initiatives. 6. Peacekeeping and monitoring. Technology aids in peacekeeping missions through enhanced monitoring capabilities. Drones, satellites, and electronic surveillance can help peacekeepers monitor ceasefires, troop movements, and protect civilians more effectively. 7. Humanitarian assistance. Technological advances in logistics such as blockchain and AI can improve the efficiency and transparency of humanitarian aid delivery in conflict zones, ensuring that aid reaches those in need while minimizing corruption. The challenge is in managing these technologies responsibly. There's a need for international agreements and frameworks to ensure that the use of technology in warfare adheres to international law and ethical standards. Similarly, in peacekeeping, technology should be used to enhance effectiveness while ensuring it does not infringe on privacy or escalate conflicts inadvertently. What aspect of technology's role in warfare and peacekeeping interests you the most, or do you see any particular technology as especially promising or concerning?
I want to understand, if it were down to AI or if it were down to you, how would you resolve all of these conflicts?
If it were just down to AI and technology to solve conflicts like those in Ukraine and between Israel and Palestine, here's how they could be most effectively utilized. 1. Predictive analytics for prevention. AI can analyze historical data, social media, and real-time communications to predict where and when conflicts might arise or escalate. This predictive power can enable preemptive actions to prevent conflicts or reduce their severity. 2. Enhanced negotiation platforms. Develop AI-driven platforms that assist in diplomatic negotiations. These platforms could offer real-time data analysis, suggest optimal negotiation strategies, simulate potential outcomes, and ensure that all parties have access to the same information, fostering transparency. 3. Autonomous monitoring systems. Use drones, satellites, and sensors equipped with AI to monitor ceasefires and territory lines continuously. These systems can provide unbiased, real-time monitoring of agreements and quickly report violations, reducing human error and manipulation. 4. AI mediators. Create AI systems that can serve as neutral mediators in discussions. These AI mediators can process vast amounts of information, understand cultural nuances, and suggest compromises based on successful outcomes from historical conflicts. 5. Information and misinformation management. Employ AI tools to manage the information flow and counteract misinformation campaigns that can inflame tensions. AI can analyze the authenticity of information, predict the impact of misinformation, and help disseminate accurate information to keep the public correctly informed. 6. Virtual reality for empathy building. Use virtual reality, VR, simulations driven by AI to help opposing sides experience the world from each other's perspectives. These empathy-driven tools can be used in educational and training settings to promote understanding and reduce prejudices. 7. Blockchain for transparency in aid. Implement blockchain technology to ensure that international aid is distributed transparently and reaches its intended recipients without mismanagement or corruption. This can build trust and support reconstruction efforts. By leveraging these technologies, AI can support more effective conflict resolution processes, improve negotiation outcomes, ensure compliance with peace agreements, and build a foundation for long-term peace. However, it's crucial to remember that technology should assist and enhance human-driven efforts, not replace them, considering the ethical and practical limitations of current technologies.